Today we're going to have a little bit of a whinge and a moan because we have a Canyon in for service today. Now this actually came into us on the 2nd of January. He's almost the very first customer of 2024, and now is the 1st of February, and we're only now just been able to get round to servicing it because we've been waiting for various parts. It's really disappointing, and it's a real systematic problem in the industry right now. You think there's loads of parts on sales, but the actual parts you want are still weeks away from delivery. Anyway, this customer wants a complete strip down. He has meticulously maintained this bike. It came in absolutely beautifully clean. And when he first brought it in, I was like, what do you want us to do? And then when we started to look closer, you could see all the evidence of wear and tear, and we got the chain checker out and we measured it, and we started to see that even though it's meticulously clean, you cannot get away from the fact that parts wear out. So I'm going to talk you through what we measure, what we assess, what we tell the customer that we are about to replace, and then show you the whole process of stripping this down, checking everything meticulously and rebuilding it and delivering this bike probably better than it was when it was new. Before we start the lift, the very first thing we do while it's down on its wheels is get these cranks loosened off. Now, I'd normally leave the chain on for this, but because we've taken the chain off to look at some of the wear and tear, I've already got the chain off. So this is always a good strong part because this bolt is really, really tight. We've got a whole much more leverage. There we go. Actually, that was okay. It came off quite easily. So these chain rings were our first problem. They are really, really worn. And the first indication of that is when we actually look at the chain. Now, these use the SRAM flat top chain. And even though, look how clean this customer had kept this chain, we need to use the special SRAM flat top chain checker. And the way this works, we put this into 2 links, and then we use our hand to compress this area here. So this is held tight, and then we check the chain, and it is absolutely swallowed. This little prong should not go through there. So this is so worn. Unfortunately, it's probably gone a little bit too far, because if we change the chain a little bit sooner, we might not have experienced so much wear and tear on the cassette and the chain rings. Coming back to these, we can really see this wear and tear. And if I was to put this next to a new one, you can clearly see that difference. Now, the reason we happen to have a brand new one is because chain rings, this common sort of disposable item, if you like, there is just no stock anywhere. So we had to go hunting around and try to find an alternative, and there's just nothing. So luckily, a famous internet retailer is going out of business and had entire cranksets selling for cheaper than the cost of a chain ring. So we have a whole new crankset. Now, the customer uses a power meter, so we need to take those chain rings off and put them onto this new one. But it's just as well, because if we take a look at the non-drive side, we can see that this crankset has experienced all of this under rotation. Let me just clean this off and show you. Now we can really clearly see the damage that's been happening to here, and that stops here. So about 2/3 of the rotation of this has seen some damage, and we're just starting to see it here on the drive side. This would sit like this in the frame, so you can see some significant scoring here on the drive side as well. So ideally we should change this, because that crankset is not going to give a great experience. Now, this customer had been complaining of some bottom bracket creaking, and that's why they brought it to us. They also wanted a more long-term solution. They knew that the PF41 and the SRAM dub, not a great solution. So we've got a better solution coming, and we'll talk you through that when we get to the bottom bracket. So those were our first problems. Under rotation, significant chainring wear. Okay, let's get the wheels off. Let's take a look at these wheels, and we can see this cassette looks very, very worn. And if you just take your fingernail and try to rub it across these, you can actually feel that little lip. If I just try and put this next to the microphone, you can probably hear it. And that is my fingernail rubbing against the lip, like the chain has been hitting it, and like there's a sort of a mushrooming effect on the edge of the cassette. These little gaps in between get wider and wider and wider. Again, I'll take this off and compare it to a fresh one for you and show you exactly the difference between a really worn cassette and a brand new one. While we're here, let's take a look at the disc rotor. And again, you can run your fingernail across and check, and I can feel a significant lip between where the braking surface is and where the other part of the pressed steel is. And if you look on here, it does actually say minimum thickness 1.55 millimeters. So we have our little caliper here, and we are probably right on the limit. That's 1.5, just there. We can measure in a few different places. Now, a micrometer is a better tool for this, but getting a micrometer out, you know, when you're just trying to talk a customer through things that might need doing, this tool is a lot quicker for just checking, and this is quite obvious at 1.5, so we need to change those rotors as well. The tyres though do look fantastic. So these are Schwalbe Pro 1s, and Schwalbes have a little dimple in them. Everyone thinks this is a tyre fault. This is actually a wear indicator. We're not past the little wear marker just yet. But while we're here, we're gonna have a look around the rest of the tyre, and we're just looking for any sort of significant cuts or thorns that might be stuck in there as we go. This all looks pretty good. There's a tiny little cut there, but nothing to give me any concern. So tyres generally good condition, and the bearings are actually spinning really well. So we'll take a look at those as we get to them. Quick look at the front wheel as well. Starting to see a little bit of heat damage here as well. So there's been some heat build up on these. You can see that's like almost got to go into a light straw colour. It's gone through a tempering, and again I can feel a significantly more depth change. Yeah, we're almost down to 1 millimetre. This is so far beyond its wear limit. It's probably getting quite dangerous now. So they're definitely changing. But bearings are a bit stiff, but no play in them. So these tyres actually look quite new. They've still got that curvature. In fact, they've still got some of the mould line on them as well. So I think these are quite new tyres. They've still got plenty of wear left in them. Again, just going to check for any cuts or anything, but these look virtually brand new, these tyres. These are my favourite deconstruction tools. I just like working with this. It's dead quick. You can have a couple of tools in your hand, like a T25, an M4 and an M5, and just get things done quite quickly. Rear mech actually looks pretty good. Those jockey wheels are actually look in pretty good condition, and even the bearings are spinning well. Looks nice, and there's no scratching either, so everything's been running very well aligned. This is the front mech. Again, this all looks very good. So what I check for around here is all the pivots. Sometimes these little circlips go missing. So that all looks to be intact, and there's no obvious slack in that system at all. What's really nice to see is actually the Canyon mechanics. This is the first time this has been taken apart since the factory. I actually put the little wedge in. So many mechanics missed that. That's really nice to see. Okay, while we're down here, let's pull this bottom bracket out and see what's going on. So this is a bottom bracket tool I actually picked off of AliExpress. They wear out really quickly, so it's one of those things that's just worth replacing frequently. They come with a little wedge. I'm not quite sure what you call that, a drift, I don't know. And they come with a whole bunch of different places to make sure you get one that really does locate on the frame, and they're quite well made, so even though you've got very little material here to actually push against, you can normally get a pretty good fit. We do actually have one of the wheels manufacturing ones of this, but I hate to say it, these ones from AliExpress are probably a better tool. The wheels manufacturing one can be quite temperamental, and it sort of doesn't always give a really good purchase on the actual bearing. So this one, as you're about to see, very effective. There really are so many good tools out there now for removing press fit. There really is no need to ever have to use a hammer. The old way of doing it with a really barbaric park tool sort of split thing, like you're removing a headset, there really is no need anymore. So this is our bottom bracket tool thing. So like I say, we've got the barbaric park tool hammer versions if we really have to. This is for BB30. This is like the park tool version. I think they do a bearing removal tool one. I sort of saw it at a trade show. I wasn't that massively impressed by it. So yeah, this all goes in there. That's various different types of drifts. This is the wheels manufacturing one that I was talking about, and the idea is that this goes around the bearing and you put this in to expand it. Often found that these fail and they're a bit of a faff, but their sort of removal cups are quite well made. So we kind of keep it here. I have to say I do default to this AliExpress tool quite often. Bizarrely, it just works. So it goes to show. Oh, and then all the various Campagnolo tool faff as well. Okay, let's take a look at these bearings. This is the one that was causing us the problems. It's actually rotating okay. It's a little bit rough and it feels significantly freer now it's out of the bike than it did when it was in. So already my brain is thinking we've got a massive undersizing problem going on. So we have quite a problem in here actually. So we'll come in and see this. I'm going to get a torch. There is a significant gouge across this bottom bracket. It's got some significant depth to it. I'll show you a depth measurement. So we've got it here where there is material. We are reading So that's a almost 4mm of carbon depth, and here in the middle of that, it's 3mm. That's almost a millimetre deep. I mean, you'd have to be pretty damn blind not to notice that and think, do you know what? I'm just going to stick a bottom bracket in on top of it. I mean, that is, in my mind, that is someone who obviously spotted that on the production line and chose to ignore it. That should have been spotted by a mechanic and gone back and be repaired. I'm not saying that it's a reject, they can easily repair that, we're going to repair it, but I can't believe that mechanics on a production line are letting this stuff pass. That is so obvious. Anyway, we'll show you how to fix that. Let's get the rest of the bike apart and I'll show you how we're going to fix this problem. I always think bar tape, even though this is in good condition, it's just something that we change because like having fresh bar tape at the end of your bike service is such a nice thing. You know, you've got this lovely clean bike, all the bearings work smoothly, and you've got nice fresh bar tape. So, and you can never really rewrap this and get a nice finish. So this just goes in the bin. Now, one of the things that the customer was complaining about was that their lever hoods had gone really loose and floppy. And this is quite a common thing sometimes. So they've asked us to replace those, and I think we should, because this is just going to lead to a pretty poor riding experience. And again, this is one of those parts that we really had to wait a long time for. This is the last part we're waiting for, to be honest. So almost a month to try and get these in. And that's the sort of thing that should be just basic commodity stuff. Don't even get me started on SRAM brake hose, which is almost unobtainable at the moment. Anyway, we got there in the end. We've got some lever hoods, so let's pull these ones off. It's always easier to do this while they're on the actual bike. So need to disconnect these brake hoses. So gloves on, and we have a ring spanner, which is a little 5-sided spanner like this. SRAM levers actually have what they call a connector jig. So they've got a little valve on this lever side here. So the lever side isn't going to leak, but this side will. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling this up and getting this upright so any leakage here doesn't come out. Okay, so here's a little thing to look out for. You can always tell when it's been done from factory, because when they factory install, these little olives don't have the little T7, I think it is, adjusted that you can unscrew these olives. These are just actually bonded in, so we need to cut these off normally. However, Canyon do have a system where you don't actually have to reroute it through the handlebars. Just finish that off with a little bit of tape, and that's why it's nice and safe. You know, nothing's going to leak through all of that. And here you can see what Canyon do with their bars, and that is allow what looks like internal cable routing actually is externally, and makes servicing quite a bit easier. I have to say it would be really, really nice to see grease on these threads though, because this is an area of the bike where it gets very sweaty. So the reason I've got the bike at this angle is so that nothing just falls on the floor as I deconstruct things. And as I'm taking all this apart, I'm just looking for any damage. These little top caps on Canyons are normally very easily damaged, and we often see this little O-ring here has been snapped, or this little spacer here has been cracked. Again, with these Acros compression rings, we normally can see lots of damage on this. This little rubber seal often gets damaged, and these can often snap as well. This is actually in really good condition. So is the bearing actually. That is really remarkable, because these are really, really small bearings. Really not much material in those at all, and these often wear out prematurely. And loads of grease in here as well. And it looks like a really good quality grease as well. I'm not quite sure what grease this is that they're using at Canyon, but that feels like a nice quality grease. When you're undoing these, just keep hold of your caliper, because when you undo these bolts, these calipers normally have like a little bit of tension built up into these brake hoses and have a tendency just to ping off the frame and then scratch your frame, so just keep hold of them. When you're dealing with brake pads, trying to touch this surface with the greasy fingers, just keep your fingers away from the actual braking surface itself. But there's plenty of pad life there, we can just clean those up. So generally speaking, quite impressed with the frame, apart from this massive gouge in the bottom bracket, because even the actual bottom bracket face is actually pretty clean. There's normally paint and stuff all over that, so I really don't know how that gouge got missed when everything else actually looks really good. So what we're going to do is get this back in the stand and start to reconstruct. How we are going to fix this bottom bracket. First of all, I want to see what sort of size it actually is and see if we've got undersizing issues going on. So we're actually looking all right. This is 40.97. Let's just twist that around a little bit. Okay, that's a little bit tighter. 0.95. Generally speaking, it's okay. And I think it'd be absolutely fine to put a bottom bracket in there. It's arguably a little bit on the small side in a couple of axes, but I've seen a whole lot worse. So it begs the question, what has been causing all of this, because this is coming from non-drive side, which is actually measuring pretty well. So I'm guessing we have a big alignment problem. Okay, just got off the phone with the customer and learned an awful lot actually. So the story is, when they first got the bike, they had a problem with the chain coming off the chain rings and chewing up the frame. And that first instance was actually within the 30 days warranty. So they sent that back to Canyon. Canyon admitted they'd made a fault with how they installed the front mech. They replaced the frame because it's all got chewed up, and they sent it back out to him and it was all okay. He's since then had a recurring problem with that, but then outside the 30 days, and it wasn't as bad, so he just sort of shrugged his shoulders about it. But he was getting a lot of creaking from the bottom bracket, so he took it into another bike shop, and he rode around it perfectly fine for a long time until he brought it into us with another creaking problem. So we know that this has a new frame from Canyon, and then it went to another bike shop before it came to us. Kind of fits within my thinking a little bit, because it's rare that we see a frame this well finished directly from any factory, to be fair, not just Canyon. It looks like a mechanic has been here and tidied stuff up. When I look at all the under rotation on this axle, it doesn't coincide with what we're seeing in the bottom bracket, because I think this has actually been looked after by someone before, and this cut, I think, has actually been a result of some of that work. What makes me think that, I suspect, this is just a theory, is that the original bottom bracket that is having a problem with, the one that caused all of this problem, was probably a very tight fit, and the bike shop probably had a lot of effort trying to remove it, and I think they probably used a Dremel. So I went and got a Dremel blade, and sure enough, this cut is exactly where you would put a Dremel with the shaft coming off here and try to cut out a bottom bracket. It's a theory, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's just too many things in there that are sort of a coincidence for my liking. One of the interesting things was that the customer was a bit like, Paul, can you just fit a really good bottom bracket solution to this? So before even seeing this issue, we were already going to be fitting a BB Infinite bottom bracket, and I was prepared to have to resize, but we're not going to have to, because the size is actually really good. But I do want to do something with this cut. I don't think it's going to be a massive structural problem. There's still a significant depth of carbon around, but what I am concerned about is it is a place for moisture and oxygen to exist, which is just going to increase the chance of things corroding and then getting stuck in the future. So I want to fill it purely to fill an air gap, somewhere that moisture can accumulate. So all we're going to do is just use a very simple two-part epoxy, just to have something to fill on. I'm going to leave that smoothed off, and I'm going to come back in after a few hours of this curing and just smooth that back out again, and that's when we'll start reconstructing. So we'll do this, and then we'll tidy up the rest of the bike and come back to you for the build. That is something I really like about SRAM, actually, the fact that you can just do that. You know, you don't have to buy a whole new crankset, you can just upgrade things, change chain rings. It's a whole lot more versatile than Shimano. There we go, that is all those worn chain rings. They have seen some life. Okay, next job, let's get these levers cleaned up and those new hoods installed. So next job is to give these a bit of a clean in the parts washer. I'll leave the batteries in, it's all waterproof then. So this is a Rozone smart washer, and sort of the chemicals in here are like a bacterial enzyme, I think, that kind of eat grease. So it kind of sits in this big heater and just gets recirculated, and it goes through a big filter to keep everything activated. It's really efficient actually, and so much better than using solvents. It's not actually that dangerous, but we do find, because it's the idea is it's to remove grease and stuff, it also takes all the oils off your hands. So if you don't use gloves, you kind of end up with just really dry hands. Next up, we're going to give these brakes a service. Give these a really good clean. First off, brakes out. These ones are quite worn. This little lip that's appearing just where the brake rotors, or the brake caliper, sitting a little bit proud of the rotor. So the rotor's just not touching this little bit here. So looks like we've got a little bit of work to do there as well. These brake mounts actually look really nice. And if we just offer this up, even just, you can quite often tell, because if you push down on one side, you'll see a gap appear. But that looks like a lovely flat surface. So that has been faced. Again, that is not something we normally see from Canyon. New day, and I've just kept the little patch of plastic that I've sort of put the resin onto just to make sure this is hardened. What we need to do with this bottom bracket is we're going to be fitting a BB Infinite unit, and I want to make sure that this is going to measure exactly 46 millimeters, because these very small bearings work best at that 46, and you can actually put some Loctite retaining compound in there as well to really get a good functioning bottom bracket. So first thing we'll do is bring this back down a nice round hole. We know we've got material to work with on here. To do that, we're going to be using this, which is a honing tool, and our Mapdec drill, and plenty of lubricant. So this honing tool is actually a very, very fine grit. It's actually used for scoring the inside of motor vehicle cylinders just to help the lubrication. So it's a very, very fine grit. It's actually perfect for this. So with those two in place, should have a nice fit, and this actually rotates nicely. So we've got two correct size holes and good alignment. I'll show you the repair job and how smooth that looks now. You install in this direction and install from the non-drive side. We're going to be using the alt drift kit for this, because when you're trying to stack this up, you've obviously got the extra length of all this, and quite often your bottom bracket press isn't actually long enough to go through everything, and they provide their own drifts, which is slightly the wrong bore for our Park Tool bearing press. So this is a little contraption we do. Use this little centering gauge to get the first bit in. Once the first section is in, and we can manipulate this around on its center axis, we make sure that no cables are in the way, nothing's pinching, and then we can get the proper drift kit out and finish it off with all the Loctite in place. So time to take a look at these wheels. These are actually looking fantastic. They're running beautifully true, and there are no loose spokes in here at all. So it's time to take a look at these hubs. Again, the bearings are actually running really, really well, but do want to get in there and just make sure that they are clean. I mean, this is running beautifully smoothly. There's no sign of corrosion in there at all. These have been really well looked after and cared for. Apart from a bit of dirt, they look beautifully clean. And we're going to sort that dirt out by giving that a good wipe down, and of course, some fresh grease. So when you get a new cassette from SRAM, they normally come pre-greased in there, but it's always worth checking, because if you get an OEM one, they don't always. So just be certain before you just assume. When you're handling brake rotors, just make an attempt never to touch the actual braking surface. Wheels done, let's get back to the rest of the bike. Let's get these cranks in. So a little bit of our blue mobile grease. While we're off camera, I switched over the plastic adjuster knob with the nice aluminium one from Cane Creek. What's weird actually is I don't think customer knows that he has this. I think this was fitted by the bike shop. So I would love to know the drama that went on in that bike shop. So next job, we're going to bleed the brakes, not just because we've disconnected the hoses, but also as part of the service, we're going to flush out all that old fluid, get some new stuff in there. So this is our brake bleeding kit, whole load of drifts, SRAM dot grease, etc., and the Pro bleed kits, several versions of that. When it comes to bleed kits, I've never had that much success with like the generic kits that you get from Park, etc. We tend to just stick to the bleed kits that have been designed by the brand. So for SRAM, we use the SRAM Pro bleed kit, and Shimano, we use the Shimano bleed kit, etc. Yeah, I've just never had that much luck with sort of the universal kits. Okay, so while we were away last night, we've put all the batteries on charge and updated all the firmware as well. So happy with all of that. Let's get a little bit of grease on these threads. Again, we're just doing loose assembly right now. We'll come back and talk check towards the end. So with SRAM stuff, you get some nice alignment lines. There's a little line here and a little line here to help you get everything lined up. Last job, clean hands. Let's get some bar tape on, and the customer has chosen from our Berg cycling range. This is the Contour, one of our most popular bar tapes, and I can see why it's so nice in the black. So this has like a matte style contour effect, but kind of gloss black on matte black. So it looks really smart. Feels really nice as well, and it's really durable bar tape. Right, this is going to be a little tuck underneath, and then we do our figure of 8. And we're trying to cover up this little bit of silver. So we're going to come over the top here. And then down, cover up that little gap. really tuck this in. And then it's important, you're going to try and smooth out this line here, like that. Quick word of caution on these SRAM shifters. Now you might have seen just recently SRAM announced a product, they call it a recall, but well, it is a recall, but it relates to the fact that there was a problem with the Loctite on the bolt that holds this on. So when you did it at torque, it would still move like this. Most bike shops that I know sort of understood the problem and either just removed a little bit of Loctite and put their own on and just made sure that these were tight enough so that they didn't move. But if you're unsure, there's a product recall in place which replaces those bolts, but for the most part you just need to apply enough torque that these levers don't move. I think I'll probably do a follow-up video that gives you an awful lot more information than that. We are done. One last job to do. Clean, polish, go and call the customer. Brand new microfiber, PT's minty fresh polish. I'm just going to make sure we remove all greasy fingerprints and give this that showroom fresh look. There we go, one Canyon Ultimate CF SLX, probably prepared, better than new, ready for a fantastic summer of cycling. If you like that sort of content, please give it a thumbs up, get your comments down below. What do you think? I'm really keen to hear all your feedback, and I'll see you on the next one.